What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast where we pay the bills. It's Jake Micah, and I am joined by special guest, former Buffalonian, comedian, Josh Potter. Josh, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
On the show.
Former Buffalonian. I wish it was. I mean, I hate that. That makes me sad.
Always Buffalonian.
Yeah.
We're forever Western New Yorkers. You can't get it. So we're both displaced. If I'm a Chicagoan now. You're living in Los Angeles. How long have you been in LA now? Because I feel like I remember. I remember. I don't remember when it was, but I stuck in my memory the day that you said. I think you tweeted out like I'm going to LA. Like I'm leaving Buffalo. I'm leaving the Edge and going to follow your dreams. That's an awesome story, an exciting thing. You've been out there for quite a while now, doing the thing, doing shows. I know you got a podcast, the Josh Potter Show, every Wednesday. So talk about what you've been working on the last couple of years out there, because it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I left. It's been 6 years now. Just hit 6 years, the anniversary of me. Like I got here on the 5th of September, so just hit the anniversary of 6 years not too long ago. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy to think that it's been 6 years already, because I mean, part of it was COVID, so it feels like I just got here. True. Still kind of,
Yeah, so you probably like got to LA, got used to like normal life, whatever you're doing. COVID hits, LA changes completely. California is a completely different world, and now you're getting back used to it.
Yeah, it's been it's coming back. It's already back. I mean, even in Chicago or other cities, even Buffalo. Like I go home to Buffalo now, and it's still a little weird. Like that, restaurant like Jim Steakout closes at like midnight. Mighty Taco closes at like 10 p.m. You're like, what happened? But it's all COVID related, I guess.
Yeah, and I do miss those late night Mighty Taco runs very much when I was back home. Go back home. You count on those. You're waiting on those. So
I was just back there back in August. I was back home doing my fantasy football draft, and I ate Mighty Taco no less than 5 times. It was ridiculous.
Gets better every time too. Better every time. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the show here. You want to talk about what you've been working on? What you got going on? I know you've got shows coming up along the West Coast and your podcast every week. So
I mean, I do the podcast every Wednesday. It comes out, and just performing live around and about. Going to be in Buffalo actually for Thanksgiving Eve at Helium. That's on sale, so I thought might as well promote that on here. I'd imagine most of the audience probably from Buffalo, yeah, or is it displaced people?
Like this is a Buffalo-based show. I'm trying to grow the displaced displacement out, you know. So yeah, we'll put that up here too at Helium on Thanksgiving Eve. That's exciting. That's gonna
November
be a blast.
22nd.
Yeah. I mean, have your friends and family come out, see your show and everything. Like that's gonna be a fun time. So yeah, go check out Josh at Helium Thanksgiving. Listen, we all know how fun Thanksgiving Eve can be. There's no better. Go get some laughs, go get some drinks at Helium, and then go hit Chippewa and do your thing. Like
hell yeah,
that's the way to go. So yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I wish I was gonna be in town for Thanksgiving because I would definitely try to go hit that up. But go check out Josh while he's there. And hey, when you're in Chicago, you gotta let me know too, because I will definitely
for sure. I'm definitely coming back in 2024 to Chicago. So I was there like this time last year, but I'll be back in 2024 for sure.
Glad to hear it because I've enjoyed the comedy scene out here since I moved here. It's been a blast to go to a couple different spots, Laugh Factory and everything else that they got going on here. So before we get into any Bills thing, where's your favorite place been to perform so far? Seems like you've been traveling around for a while now. What's your favorite city that you've been able to perform in, like crowd wise, atmosphere, or just place that you visited, or like this place is way doper than I thought it was going to be?
That's tough. I mean, it's like I really just love performing literally everywhere. I mean, it's like people like bitch about like, oh, you're going to Poughkeepsie or you go to like Des Moines or something like that. And I really like going to just about everywhere. I mean, everywhere in the continental United States is pretty solid by me. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's from being born in Buffalo and like people shitting on Buffalo so often, but like, I really don't like, people are like, oh, sorry. You know, after a show sometimes in some cities, depending on where you are, people will be like, sorry, you had to come to whatever city, you know? And I'm like, well, I wanted to come here. You know, there's people here. There's a club here. So I don't know. It's a tough answer. I think I like look forward to going to like Denver, I guess. I love going there. You know, I like going to, you know, the Midwest is fun. I like Pittsburgh. I like, you know, the Rust Belt. I mean, I really can't pinpoint one city over another.
You and I love that answer because you and I are kindred spirits, and maybe it is something to do with being in Buffalo and you know, hearing what we hear about Buffalo, you know, through the Bills and everything else the whole time. Because I've traveled a lot the last 10 years of my life. I played junior hockey, so I was moving around then, moved for college.
Oh, cool.
I settled here in Chicago, so I really like everywhere I go, and I think it's just from like that kind of thing, but also just trying to find like there's something there to enjoy everywhere, whether it's a big city and there's you want the nightlife, or you want just different options, or if it's somewhere that's beautiful site wise or whatever else. Yeah, there's beauty in everywhere in the world. So
right. No, exactly. It's like if people came to Buffalo and they didn't know what to do or whatever, I could see them being like, this place is boring or whatever. And you could say that about everywhere. And you could also go to a place with an open mind and try and like experience just like hanging out, you know. And I like going to like quiet places. I'd even take like vacation to places like Omaha if I could. You know what I mean? Like I like kind of quiet places like that, finding like gems within there.
I'm with that completely. I live here in Chicago. You know, you think big city, whatever else. My favorite part's just the lake. Like I live close to the lake.
Nice.
I spend all my time by the water, whatever. And it's like I've lived by a lake my whole life, whatever, like that. But it's like you just find the little things that you want to enjoy. And I'm with you with like Omaha is a great city, but like those are the cities you find with the charm and the people that you get to meet too. And I'm sure that you get that experience a lot with the way that you go and the acts you perform. I'm sure you meet with people and everything afterwards too. Like getting to meet the people, getting involved in the culture, and just like seeing how happy everybody else is around. You're like, dang, maybe it's not so bad here. Like if they could be happy here, I could do it too. So
yeah, for sure.
Love that.
Chicago's dope though. I love Chicago. I mean, if there was a place, I always like kind of dream about moving back to Buffalo eventually. Mm-hmm. But if there's a place that I would go to that isn't LA or Buffalo, it'd probably be Chicago to live. I'm saying.
Love to hear that. I'm trying to spread the good word of Chicago to the rest of the world. Because yeah, it's a great city here. So how do you like LA? Like, do you love living in LA now? Are you like used to it? Like, I know it's like and there's different LAs, different versions of LA too. So I don't know what exactly your Los Angeles experience is, but I've heard every gamut of everything on the spectrum for it.
Yeah, people shit all over it. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, we were talking about those other cities where it's like, I live here, so I try to keep an open mind about it all and like try to have a positive outlook. And, I never even had thought that I was ever going to live here. It wasn't like in the cards until like an opportunity arose. And once that happened, I was like, well, this is where I'm going to live. I got to make the best of it. COVID obviously made it seem like Thunderdome for a little while, and that was a little weird, but it also kind of was, it kind of lowered LA's bar to like where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Like coming from the East Coast and like coming from at the time when I lived there, for the most part, an economically dilapidated city of Buffalo. So now it's like, whatever happens here, I can deal with. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like going to Nobu or whatever the hell, when all that went down. But it has its positive things and negative things, obviously. But I think, I found my way here and I don't mind it as much as some people, you know what I mean? But I mean, at the end of the day, I do not believe this will be the place I live forever, but it is where I have to live to work right now. So I'm trying to make the best of it, I guess you could say.
Nah, I feel that in my soul. Chicago was not my first choice either, but I'm here for work, and then you make the best of it. And I feel like that's the biggest thing about the biggest misconceived notions about a bigger city in general. And maybe it's also from living in Buffalo and hearing opinions on bigger cities, especially New York City. And that's like, you hear all the stuff about New York City and everything. Everybody's big city guys. Like, I feel like it's filtered through New York City to everything else, but you can really make Chicago, and I'm sure it's the same for LA, whatever you want it to be. Like, it can be, if you want it to be, you're going to Nobu or you're going to the Loop every night and going to fancy dinners, and that's the life you want to do, sure. But you can live whatever life you want. I'm sure you could go, get your beautiful hikes in the morning and do all those types of things, go to the beach and everything else. Like, you can make life whatever you want it to be. And that's the beautiful thing about living somewhere with a metropolitan area like that. You got everything you want in the same spot, and you can just make life however you want. So I'm glad to hear. I love the positive outlook on it. Love making the best of things. But what is it like being a Bills fan in LA? Has it changed over the last 6 years too?
No, I mean, it does suck that when I did move here, it's like the year we drafted Josh Allen, and like things took a drastic turn, obviously for the best. Because I used to, when I worked on Trent Reagan and stuff, I used to go in the locker room every week. I used to like be around the team a lot, and that was through some pretty awful years. From JP Lossman up through like EJ Manuel, while we had the rights to the Bills broadcast. And so I did have some FOMO, I will say.
Oh yeah.
Missing some of those games at the Ralph. And I try to go to a game a year, whether it be at the Ralph or like away. Like last year, I went to the season opener here in LA against the Rams. And this year, I think I'm going to go to the game against the Jets on November 19th. But I mean, going back, it makes it also like the game that I saw before I went to the Rams game, I went and I saw them play the Colts, where they stomped us like 50 something. Like, I mean, it was an awful game. And I was like, is it me? Is it my fault that this is happening? Because the game that I saw before COVID, the last game I saw before COVID was Nathan Peterman here in LA at the like StubHub Center.
Oh man.
So I started feeling like it was my fault, because like I hadn't gone to a game since then. And then I finally COVID went through, and then I, when I came out of it, I went home to watch them play the Colts, got destroyed. I'm like, God, I mean, I can't catch a W. So I think I broke the curse with the Rams game last season.
I think so. That's fair. And the third time's the charm. You had two bad ones in a row, and then you got the third one as a good one. I think that's just par for the course if you're a Bills fan. You might get a terrible experience. The last home Bills game I went to was before I moved, and it was the Monday night Wind game against the Patriots. I bought it. It was for my mom. My mom and I have the same birthday, so it was a couple weeks after that. So it was like a big thing. We're all excited. Monday Night Football, first primetime game we ever go to, and then all of a sudden we're tailgating and in our car it's 80 degrees. So I know that feeling of being like, that was
the game where Mac Jones threw like 3 passes, right? Like 3 attempts, not even 3 passes.
Yes,
and Belichick just ran it.
Game, I had the Damian Harris touchdown. I was on not the tunnel end, the other side, so got that right in my face. So yeah, it wasn't the best Bills experience, but it was even not the best Bills experience.
Yeah,
Highmark Stadium is still an incredible experience. It's funny you say the 19th. We might have to have a Labatt together because I think that's the game I'm coming home for. That's 2 days
Hell
after
yeah.
my birthday. So if we do that, I'd love to see you there. But that Jets
for sure.
It's going to be a little bit of a it's a little bit interesting now at this time too, because as we'll get into the rest of the season now, obviously the outlook for a lot of teams has changed. And I don't know how you felt about after week 1. I mean, it was so chaotic for so many different reasons. And then last week just felt like some normalcy. So where do you stand? Were you freaking out after week 1, or were you more just like, listen, bad games happen. This is like the craziest circumstances. And now we're like, this is more normal.
I wasn't freaking out after week 1 because I don't know what it is. I noticed this thing about Josh Allen where like he gets amped and he plays like shit when he gets amped. Like he's like, it's like his adrenaline is pumping so much. And I think like on primetime games, he has it happen a little bit more. And every time, like, I feel like he overthrows when his like adrenaline is just like flowing through his veins. And also added to that, like the last 3 Monday night football games, or the last 2 Monday night. I mean, that was the first game since it was Damar Hamlin dies on the field, and then we came back and it's Aaron Rodgers is like coming out like the Patriot with a American flag on 9/11. I mean, it's just like crazy moments. And I think Josh Allen still has a hard time like tempering his adrenaline. Even when we play home games, like he comes out of that tunnel running out there, it takes him like a drive or two to like settle down. I still think, even if it's like a 1:00 game on a Sunday. So I wasn't too worried. I hate when the Bills are on Monday Night Football because of that reason. And we just are snake bitten, I feel like. And though the Jets kind of had it worse with Aaron Rodgers going down, they still won the game in overtime. And I just feel like it was just immense chaos and a giant spotlight. And I would rather let's just play some Sunday games at 1:00 just to get some dubs under our belt,
Luckily, we got a couple more of those coming up. But yeah, I think it's a great point about Allen because, there's like some weird stat about Joe Burrow where like his resting heart rate is like lower than it should be. And it's like, at that point, he's so calm and everything. And there's no way Josh Allen is that way.
I love that. He's all heart and like adrenaline, and he just gets juiced up for the moment. And I think I think that's good, but I feel like he has to like have like a second to like just chill out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the throwing up before games is like it's a cool, I guess, cool story, whatever. Like you want your like whatever, like it's a funny thing to hear about.
I didn't know if I liked that one. I was like,
it speaks to you
up
like
every game,
every time.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy. Yeah, every game, dude, you throw up before it. That's crazy. I mean, like I perform in front of various amounts of people. Like it could be a small amount, it could be a large amount, but I've never like had to puke before it.
No, I can't say I've been in athletic contests or anything. I've never felt the need.
Sure.
That's like just the adrenaline. Like he's like you're saying, he gets cooking. I think something underrated about that whole thing Monday is that Aaron Rodgers is the dude's idol too. And then he watched his Achilles snap on the field.
Right. It was another, and like also they could be having flashbacks to like Damar Hamlin, like it's Monday Night Football, and I don't think people take in, even like with the way last season ended. I really feel like, it was just mentally they were all fried. It was like the crazy travel, playing 3 games in like 10 days or whatever the hell it was, going to Detroit, getting marooned in Chicago from the blizzards and everything like that. I feel like that, and then the Damar Hamlin stuff, it was all like so much that they were just fried when the Bengals came to town for that playoff game, and so I feel like they knocked that little bit of rust off week 1. We still went to overtime against that crazy defense that could be the best defense in the league. And I was like, let's see what happens with the Raiders before I get nervous or not. And we took it to the Raiders like we should have. And I feel like we're back on course. We'll see how it goes against the old Commanders here. They have a pretty good defense, a better one than the Raiders do. And so we'll see how we handle that. But I feel like we're back on course at the very least.
Yeah, you and I are way too aligned for this podcast because I did not. I'm very anti-panic when it comes to football in general. Like the football season's so long, game by game. Like you can't get up and down like that with them. And it just felt like last week just felt like what they were supposed to, like the week one felt like the anomaly. And like you said, you're in overtime in a game with you have 4 turnovers. Like it's kind of crazy that you're even in that game. So if you're,
I mean, we had the lead up until the end, despite the 4 you know what I mean? Like,
with Allen's play, even his chaotic play all the way through, when they needed to get down into field goal position under 2 minutes, what did they do? It was like automatic. And he's right down there and he gets him into position too.
And I feel like one of those interceptions was almost like a punt at the end of the first half there. He just kind of like did like a schoolyard punt where he just threw it up into the end zone from the 20-yard line. I'm like, we should just, if it wasn't detrimental to his statistics or whatever, we should just punt that way every time. Like freak him out and make him think like we're going for it every time on 4th down, and then just have Allen chuck it to the end zone, you know?
That's a great idea. You get some unsuspecting cornerbacks.
Although I guess they could just let the ball fall and then it's an incomplete pass.
Someone might catch on it eventually, but it might be a good like tool in the arsenal though. And I feel I tweeted that right after. I was like, solid arm punt by Allen. That was great. And you know what? It would have been great if the defense didn't let up an 83-yard run right after that. Like that was the bigger problem. It could have just been a punt and then they're back at the 40. So yeah, Allen, he's going to be prone to those things, I think, his whole career. It's the Favre experience. I keep asking. My uncle is a diehard Packers fan, so he lived through, and he's a Bills fan too. So he's followed both teams. I'm like, is this just like what? He's like, yes. He's like, this is the most. It's the same. He's like, I can't believe I have to watch this again in my life. Like, it's so infuriating. But it's
just your gunslinger thing, you know. It's going to happen. And I don't know. I mean, I grew up with the Bills never even sniffing the playoffs, going 9-7, you know, whatever, Dick Duran. So I feel like all of this has been cherry on top. Like we've gone, like people think like last season, like, are you upset they regressed? I'm like, regressed. Why? Because we went to the divisional round instead of the AFC championship. Like we're in the mix here, baby. Like the window's still open. And I mean, as long as we're making the playoffs and winning divisions, I'm pretty hyped on the team. Like, I'm not going to get too low on them at any rate, you know?
I'm completely with you because I don't believe in Super Bowl or bust when it comes to a team, unless you're like the Rams from a couple of years ago, who literally like their roster was going to be depleted afterwards.
Yeah, you knew it was gone after that. Yeah.
Because it's too hard to win. Like you just need to be there and have a chance at the end. And like you said, why have they regressed? Because they've won the division 3 years because they didn't make the championship. Their game that everybody talks about them and anointed them for the Super Bowl wasn't even the championship game. It was a divisional game.
That's right, against the Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and the year before, you know, it's like they are there. And when you see what 17 can do on a day like last week, and who knows what that Raiders team ends, that Raiders team could end up being one of the worst teams in the league for all we know. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G looked, I don't know. It was not what I was expecting. A lot of Devontae Adams and nothing else from that offense and everything. But if Allen can play under control like that, they're damn near unstoppable, because then when he wants to go out of control, what are you going to do with him? I'm with you. I think like just overall, like they're in such a great spot. They're still one of these teams that everybody in the league would take 2 straight divisional appearances and 4 straight playoff appearances and 4 straight 10-win seasons and all these things that we have. Like, and what you're saying, I'm used to. All I knew was terrible football. I should have never even been a Bills fan. All my friends in high school were Patriots fans, Colts fans.
That's disgusting.
Like, you're stupid. They're like, why are you a Bills fan? I'm like, this will work out someday.
That's disgusting.
It was bad.
They were Buffalonians and they were Patriots fans. Ugh,
Western New York.
I can't believe that happened. That's gross.
Patriots. There were some Patriots, some Eagles, some Colts.
Ew.
It was all over the place. Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's seeing that graphic every time they show like the AFC East winners, you know, all the time. It used to just be 20 Patriot logos in a row. And now finally we're moving it down and we've got 3 Bills ones there in a row and we're shuffling them down. I just want to like get rid of all the it's not like I'm going to sit here and be complacent about it. Obviously I want us to win a Super Bowl every year, but you know, and people always ask me like, how do you think the Bills are going to do? You know, out here, it's funny because it's almost like people are like, oh, cool, you're a Bills fan, because they don't see that every day. You know, people are like Cowboys fans or they're like whatever fans, but they don't see Bills fans every day. So they like have been really kind and they like, oh, what do you think they're going to do this year? And I say the same thing every time. I've said it since, I was a child. I think they're going to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. That's what I say. And I earnestly think that. And I'll always say that at the beginning of every season, no matter who or what is going on,
As you should. As you should.
Yeah.
See, I've never been as optimistic as you, but I was every year.
It's not even optimism. It's just I have to go into it believing that. Otherwise, what kind of fan am I?
That's true. That's a great way to look at it, because I've been I've been in my life, even the JP Lossman days, any of these days, I'm looking at the schedule for it. I'm like, that's a 12-4 team that can get things right. One of my favorite things I used to do was, once that playoff machine opened up, if the Bills were 500, I'm like, all right, how many games we gotta win? Like, you gotta have faith. And now there's actual reason to have faith.
Yes, of course,
legit reason to be excited. And I think that's the biggest thing. People, when I see people arguing about the Bills and just worried about where they are in the league and all these questions and nitpicking that go on the internet, mostly, it's let's enjoy this. This is the most fun I've had watching the Bills in my whole life, and they could change.
Yeah.
And it's such a journey. It's such a long ride during the season. The playoffs will come and they will be there. We can worry about the playoff games when they come. Let's just enjoy the ride till we get there.
I could not believe the reaction to losing to the Bengals last season in the playoffs. People wanted to just burn the whole thing down. And it's what are you talking about? You want to hit the reset button now? We're still won 3 divisions in a row. We're in the playoffs, in the mix every time. You want to fire McDermott and Bean? What are you talking about? It was so alarming to me, honestly.
It is. So last year was my first year doing this podcast. First year, earnestly trying to cover the Bills for Trainwreck and everything. So this is my second year. So I've learned a lot, obviously. And last year, what a year to start doing last year. And I think that's the biggest thing is how do you I don't know. It's just, I feel like people, there's a couple different ways that people take in American football, and I'm just in a different category of it. I think that's what it is. And so now, last year, I would get mad. I'd be firing off things at people, going back and forth, what's wrong? Can't we just be blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just y'all just, if this is what, do you think that this is going to be the end of the Bills? This one thing, Sean McDermott's bad, and on 4th down or whatever. I tell you, there are teams. You could be the Bears right now, who are one of the craziest situations, obviously, going on. Very serious and on the field too. It's there are so many organizations out there in flux that are dying, wishing that they could be the Buffalo Bills.
And I mean, we've seen this happen. The Bears, their defensive coordinator just up and quit.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, personal reasons or whatever else. But I remember when the Bills were a dumpster fire like that too. I remember when Turk Schoner, I don't remember why, but he got fired before the season even started, and Malarkey was punching people in the front office. They threw Alex Van Pelt in there when he hadn't even been an offensive coordinator yet at all. Yeah. It just endless calamities. The whole Mike Malarkey era with I forget who the hell the GM was, but the guy from the white hair guy, Donahoe.
Donahoe, yeah.
Yeah, and it was that was all just people were fighting in the offices, in the field house. I never want to go back to that again. I mean, we very well could someday, but to look at it and be our defense is a run game sieve. I'm that's the biggest issue right now. It's not our coaches and front office guys fist fighting in the facilities. Okay, cool. We can deal with that at the very least.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do not long for the days of Dick Duran where I got to give a shout out to my dad. It's 7:30 Eastern time right now. So 7 to 9 is coined by him the Dick Duran hour for anything. That's what he wanted.
That's hilarious.
Football hours to be. And I do not miss those days. Not at all. Even Steve Johnson, my favorite Bill, with Ryan Fitzpatrick. No, I don't want any of that. I don't want any part of that.
That's the one version of the Bills that I really thought could have been amazing, and I really wish it was, because I really liked Chan Gailey so much. He was maybe my favorite Bills coach of that drought era, and I I really like enjoyed, Fitzpatrick was awesome, and we had T.O. for a sec, like I really loved that that time frame, and I thought we could have been all even like Doug Whaley's tenure as GM. I was like looking at the guys, and I'm like, everyone's kind of a guy. You know what I mean? He made some good draft picks that like went on to do stuff, I feel like, but he'll never get the credit, I feel.
No, definitely not. I mean, he's the one in that first draft with McDermott too, and that's people always give that credit to Beat and everything. I think that's a great point because that really those teams like started the culture with and then the Pagulas taking over during that time and everything, and just everything that they've done around that team in the last 13 years. It really starts with those Gailey teams and everything else, like to bring back some excitement to the team, because those Duran years were really just like, we joke about it, but they were down, just they were not a fun team, but they weren't bad to do anything like real. So the team, at least there was some excitement. And I feel like that kind of brought the energy back, and then we've kind of carried that through. And now obviously you see the love that Ryan Fitzpatrick gets and still has. He's whipping his shirt around, going to the games in Buffalo and everything. Like there's clearly a lot of love there. And I feel like that's kind of built the culture that we've got to now, where everybody's like, the Bills are the best fans in the NFL. I get that from my friends from around the country all the time. Like all these people that want to see the Bills do well. I feel like those teams kind of brought those feelings back up for people.
Oh, for sure. I loved having Buddy Nix too. I mean, he was hilarious.
They were just they were so funny. Just the two old Southern guys with their just love football. Yeah, it was a good time. All right, so before I let you go here, we'll get you out of here, but we got to get some Bills Commanders talk. We got a game on Sunday.
Sure, yeah, of course.
2-0 Commanders. The Bills are traveling there. We talked about the defenses. The Jets defense might be the best defense the Bills play this year. Raiders definitely not going to be the best defense the Bills play this year, but that defensive line for Washington is dominant. Deron Payne hurt the D tackle this week, so that's a big loss for them if he doesn't play. But also just the Ron Rivera, Sean McDermott factor too. Obviously, coaching against he's in the organization with him before. They have a lot of familiarity there. So what are you expecting? It'll be it's always. I hate games at Washington. I feel like, that crowd is they're just dying for a winner there, and it feels like it's so rowdy there. I feel like the games are just messy, and it's going to be more of a rock fight than we should expect, especially with that D line. But what are you expecting?
Yeah, the weather is supposed to be pretty garbage too, like a hurricane's moving through there. So that could, I mean, and the thing that like scares me about McDermott, and I thought it was a Leslie Frazier thing. And the whole thing, I have like a conspiracy about the Leslie Frazier like exiting thing. I feel like he was such a respected coordinator and coach that they didn't want to just, publicly be like, you're fired. Mm-hmm. So they let him do this whole thing like, I'm stepping away. That way it's like he gets to save face. It's that kind of thing. And then because otherwise they would have, and then McDermott was probably like, I'm going to call the plays on defense. And this is the way we can do this. And he really put his balls on the table by being the one who calls the defensive plays, because I feel like if we somehow miss the playoffs or like do regress in a way where we don't win the division and maybe we go to the wild card game and we lose, I feel like that could be like McDermott's undoing. And the other thing that scares me about him is every time he plays one of his mentors, like usually it's Andy Reid that we see this, I feel like he thinks he has them pegged, and they know that he thinks they have them pegged, so they do this something different. Like I remember the first time McDermott coached against Andy Reid, I feel like the Chiefs ran all over us, which they never would do because Mahomes was throwing it all around.
Night game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I feel like since then, McDermott's gotten the better of Andy Reid here and there during the regular season, but I feel like he still kind of like gets a little more in his own head. So I don't know what he'll do against Ron Rivera. Maybe there's even more familiarity because he was kind of more of a higher up guy in Ron Rivera's staff, and Bean obviously knows Ron Rivera, so maybe like the familiarity there is even more so they'll have a little bit of a better time with them. But I mean, like we'll see how our defense reacts to their offense, because Brian Robinson has been running all over people. Sam Howell's pretty awesome. I kind of wish I had Sam Howell in fantasy. I was telling my draft the whole time I was singing his praises, but I just couldn't couldn't take him that, early. But I think they have some new life with the new ownership too, like you were saying with their fans. Hopefully the hurricane drowns them out and they get waterlogged and decide not to come. But there is like new life to that fan base for sure now that there's new ownership and everything.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders already won this year. They don't need to win any more games. They already won by getting Snyder out of there. So the vibes are definitely higher than they've ever been. I'm also a big Sam Howell guy. People don't talk enough about that. Before last year, he was good, or a couple years ago, he was like projected number 1 pick.
He was supposed to be the number 1 pick. I mean, in my Madden thing, he went number 1 overall. I forget who it was to, but yeah, he was the number 1 projected guy. And then he somehow went in the 4th round. It's crazy.
Yeah, they just had a really bad year in North Carolina. He had some injuries, and then he's like smaller a little bit, so then all the knocks start coming out rather than the hype up. And I think he's spinning it, man. There's some throws I've seen on some film Twitter the last couple of days, and I'm like, wait, what? Is he really doing that? And I love their receivers too. Like, I'm a big Jahan Dotson fan. I think he's awesome. McLaurin's good. They've got great skill guys. I think this is going to be it's going to be a stressful game. Like, it's going to be
That's the thing. It's going to be a real nuisance kind of thing where it's like a annoying game for sure. And I feel like the under is probably going to occur, but it's going to be sloppy. And I hate our run defense more than, like, I think our weakest point is our run defense. And it has been this entire like era of the Bills. And I thought it was a Leslie Frazier thing, but then watching Breece Hall run all over us was a little, it goes, this is happening still.
Yeah, I'm sincerely the thing I'm worried about with that run game specifically is that they let up some big chunks, and they always have, like that Breece Hall run, but it's just like the speed in the secondary too. Like Hyde and Poyer, like I know they're great, but they're old too. Like, and it's when teams get to that second level, they can get 10 extra yards because of that. And next week, the 2 fastest players in the league are coming to town too. So, I mean, these are the things. That's the biggest thing I'm definitely worried about with the defense is the speed. And I think that's how the run game gets through. If they get through that first level, there's a lot of opportunity to get more yards for those guys because that secondary just isn't as quick and athletic as other secondaries are. They're smart. They're probably the smartest secondary in the league. And the scheme is always, shored up for them. But it's just, the Jimmies and Joes, sometimes you got Breece Hall running out there and you see him running past everybody but Christian Benford. It's like, okay, I'm a little concerned with that. And there's no Terrell Bernard maybe this week either. So we'll see what, AJ Klein, I guess, or Terrell Dodson.
Yeah, he's coming back off the couch, AJ Klein. I mean, I guess he just knows the system, we can plug him in. But it's like, really, we're doing this AJ Klein thing again. But what do you think about White, Tre'Davious White? I mean, I feel like what was odd to me was like they showed how long they've been in the league. It's crazy to me that Tre'Davious White is a 7-year veteran at this point. Like, I feel like he just got here, and I feel like he was hitting his potential, but the injury obviously set him back a great deal. And I wonder if he'll ever be the same, especially now that he's been in the league this long.
I'm with you completely. I think that he was in the conversation for like a top 5 corner in the league before the injury on Thanksgiving a couple years ago. And he didn't look like that last year. And he's looked better this year. And but he does not look his old self for sure.
No.
This is going to be the biggest test. I mean, obviously next week will be a bigger test, but so far this season, they've got weapons. Howell is going to play better than Garoppolo or Wilson, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to put
which is weird. I mean, Zach Wilson was in that same draft as Sam Howell, wasn't he?
Yeah,
that was because I remember Zach Wilson cropped up. Who else was in that draft class quarterback wise? Because I remember Zach Wilson popped up there, and I was like, was that Malik Willis?
No, that's the Lawrence. That's Lawrence and Fields and Jones and all of them. So yeah, he went ahead of Fields and Mac Jones in that spot. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, and Sam Howell was supposed to go ahead of all these guys, and somehow. Wow, and he might be one of the better ones out of them for sure. Now looking at Fields, and I guess Trevor Lawrence is the reigning supreme, but he went number 1 overall as he should have. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Sam Howell, his legacy will end up being better than Zach Wilson's and the others of that draft.
I agree. That's what we're ending on is Sam Howell love. We are both people. But give me a score prediction before we go out.
Oof, I'm gonna think it's gonna be a under. I don't check the lines or anything yet.
43 and a
but,
half is the over under. 6.5 point favorites the Bills are on the road.
So I think it's gonna be like a 17-10 game. Bills.
Yeah, I was thinking 20-17. I'm right there with you. You got a Bills cover though. I will.
I picked the Bills to cover. Yeah.
I do in my picks pools. I can't ever do it. I see that Bills logo and I'm like,
no. I gotta tell you, I miss the days because I used to just take the Bills money line like every time, but we were always plus. You know what I mean? So it'd be like an underdog situation. The best one, because it was a weird like spectrum thing like this. Like as the Bills got better, that first year with Josh Allen, we were always underdogs plus money, and we would win. And then as, it progressed, obviously we became favorites and Vegas like caught up with us and it started becoming the minus. But the best one that I had, the peak of it all, was Josh Allen's first game against the Vikings where he jumped over Daniil Hunter and or Barr, whoever, Anthony Barr. I don't remember which one he jumped over, but we were plus 800 to win that game money line. And I took it and I had like $8 left in my account at the time, and I put it on the plus 800 and I was like, thank God, let's go, we're back. It was the best bet I ever made. I wish I had more money in my account at the time. I was poor back then.
Hey, but that 8x800 definitely helped out no matter what.
Yeah hell yeah.
That's an awesome, we are not going to have that for a long time with Josh Allen.
No
underdog opportunities.
No.
That's funny. I never even thought about that. I would have been I didn't start betting in earnest probably 2015, 16. I probably would have been ripping everything.
Yeah.
Bills like, oh wait, they're definitely winning this one. I'm sure people had that Patriots one in 2011 at some point and they were loving it the same way you were loving it.
Oh my God. I wish I didn't bet back then either, but boy, oh boy, that Fitzpatrick game. I lived in Cleveland during that game and I cried in my apartment when we won that game. Like, I remember like being so sad that I wasn't there. And I actually wrote like a blog for, I forget what website it was. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but I wrote a blog about how that game made me move back to Buffalo from Cleveland.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I didn't even get to watch that game. I was driving home from Rochester for a hockey game. So I had Murph. It's like one of my favorite Bills memories though, because it was just all radio. I'm just hearing Murph and Kelso the whole time. And you just hear the roars of the interception happening. And like, that was like just amazing not to see it. Like you don't even hear Murph say interception. You just hear the cheering. And then I'll never forget the Drayton Florence interception, specifically the second one specifically.
Drayton Florence. What a name.
Can't forget it now. But hey, thank you so much, Josh, for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Yeah. Go Bills. That's what we got.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Hell yeah. Go